Jordan, you have 60 seconds to gather your materials and exit the conference room. This closing will proceed without you. My sister's voice was ice. Professional. Detached. Like she was firing a stranger, not the person who'd built her business from nothing. Across the mahogany conference table, Marcus Chin, my client, the one I'd spent 6 weeks courting, staging 3 properties for, saving from disaster when the inspection went sideways, stared at Rachel like she'd just announced the earth was flat. I'm sorry, what? Marcus's pen stopped mid-signature on page 17 of the $3.2 million purchase agreement. There's been a change in representation, Rachel continued, smoothing her cream Chanel suit. Kevin will be taking over as lead agent effective immediately. Kevin, her husband, the man who'd been in insurance 6 months ago and couldn't tell a contingency clause from a homeowners association, was already reaching for my files. My files. The ones I'd assembled at midnight. The comp analyses I'd created. The marketing materials I'd designed. 6 weeks of my life, spread across this table. The conference room smelled like expensive leather and the French roast coffee Rachel always ordered for important clients. I was wearing my navy suit, the one I'd bought specifically for closings like this, and I could feel the Mont Blanc pen in my jacket pocket getting heavier. The pen my father had given me 7 years ago when I got my license. You're going to be great at this, he'd said. Not because you're my daughter, but because you care about people. My hands were shaking. I felt my face flush hot, then cold, then numb. Marcus pushed his chair back, the sound harsh against the polished floor. Rachel, I don't understand. Jordan has been exceptional. Why would you? This is an internal business decision, Mr. Chen. Kevin has extensive experience with high-value transactions, and we believe. I didn't agree to this. Marcus's voice went quiet. Dangerous. Jordan is the agent I hired. Jordan is the agent who saved this deal when the foundation issues came up. Jordan is the one who answered my calls at midnight. Kevin cleared his throat, trying to inject authority into his voice. Mr. Chin, I assure you, the transition will be seamless. I've reviewed all the documentation and… 60 seconds is up, Jordan, Rachel said, not even looking at me. I stood. The room tilted slightly, or maybe that was just me. I gathered my folders, pulled them toward me before Kevin could touch them again. These are my personal work product, I said quietly. You'll need to create your own. Rachel's jaw tightened. Jordan. I looked at Marcus. Really looked at him. This man who'd trusted me with the biggest financial decision of his year. Who'd sent me a text at 1 a.m. thanking God I was on his team. Mr. Chin, it has been an absolute honor to represent you. I'm sorry this transaction is ending this way. My voice cracked slightly. You have my personal number if you need anything. I walked toward the door, files clutched against my chest. The sound of my heels on the hardwood echoed like gunshots. Jordan, wait, Marcus started. I didn't turn around. Couldn't. If I stopped moving, I'd either collapse or start screaming, and I refused to give Rachel the satisfaction of either. I walked past Rachel, close enough to smell her perfume, the same Chanel No. 5 she'd worn since high school. Close enough to see the muscle twitching in her jaw. This didn't have to be public, I said, so quietly only she could hear. You could have talked to me privately. You chose humiliation. This is business, Jordan. Don't make it personal. I almost laughed. You fired me in front of my client. At the closing table. After 7 years. How is that not personal? I walked out before she could respond. The main office was full, 28 agents at their desks, Friday afternoon before weekend showings. I could feel every eye on me as I crossed the floor. Some confused. Some pitying. Some knowing. Because 28 of them had gotten my signal message last night. Something's happening at Chin closing Friday. Whatever you see, don't react. Wait for my signal. Trust me. I walked out the front door, into the parking lot, into my Honda Civic, the modest car I could barely afford on 60/40ths commission splits, while Rachel drove a BMW. I sat there, hands still shaking, and waited. My phone buzzed. Once. Twice. Then it started ringing. In the conference room behind me, Marcus Chin was pushing the unsigned documents back across the table toward Kevin. In offices throughout the building, Agents were opening their desk drawers, pulling out pre-written resignation letters. And my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. But I should explain how we got here. 9 months earlier, I was the one keeping North Shore Realty alive. Not that anyone would know it from the website, where Rachel's face was 3 times larger than any other agent's, or from the team photos where she always stood center frame. I'd been with the brokerage since the beginning, since Rachel convinced me to leave my secure position at Coldwell Banker to help her launch her vision. That was 2018. By 2024, North Shore Realty had grown to 42 agents and $187 million in annual sales volume. My personal contribution? $64 million of that. More than a third of our total business. But you wouldn't know it from my commission splits. Rachel had convinced me early on to take a sweat equity arrangement, lower commission splits in exchange for a future ownership stake that she kept promising to formalize once we're more established. 7 years later, I was still on 60/40 splits while newer agents got 70/30. The Marcus Chin listing had come to me through a referral from Dr. Patricia Huang, a neurologist I'd helped find her dream home 2 years prior. Marcus owned 3 properties in our area and was consolidating into a single luxury waterfront estate. Combined value of all transactions, $5.8 million. It was the kind of deal that could anchor a quarter's entire production. I remember the Sunday dinner when I first mentioned the Chin portfolio. We were at Rachel and Kevin's house, a $1.9 million tutor that I'd found for them, naturally. Their daughter Emma was showing me pictures she'd drawn while Rachel brought out the roast chicken. So I've got potentially 3 listings coming in next week, I said, cutting into my chicken. High net worth client, referred by Patricia Huang. Could be transformative for Q4 numbers. Kevin looked up from his phone. 3 listings? What's the total value? Around $5.8 million combined. Rachel smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. That's wonderful, Jordan. I knew bringing you on board would pay off eventually. Eventually. As if I hadn't been carrying the team for years. Kevin leaned forward. You know, Rachel, we should probably discuss bringing in a senior advisor on something this significant. Make sure Jordan has the support she needs. I should have heard the warning in those words. But I was too focused on the work. The next 6 weeks were a blur. I staged all 3 properties, hired professional photographers, created custom marketing materials, and personally conducted 37 showings. I worked until midnight most nights, creating virtual tours and responding to buyer inquiries. There was one night in particular, October 14th, around 11:30 p.m., when I was still at the office. Everyone else had gone home. I was assembling comp analyses for Marcus when I heard Rachel's office door open. I hadn't realized anyone else was there. I heard voices. Rachel and Kevin, talking in low tones. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but sound carries in an empty office. Timing is perfect, Kevin was saying. Once the listings go active, we transition the relationship. I'll be the one at closings, I'll be the contact point. She's going to be furious, Rachel said. She can be furious at 60/40 splits somewhere else if she doesn't like it. These are the kind of clients that establish credibility. I need this, Rach. People don't take me seriously because I came from insurance. She's my sister. And this is business. You've said it yourself, she's too passive, too focused on client service instead of growth. These buyers expect to work with the owner or someone senior. I'm your husband. That's credible. There was a long pause. We'll do it at closing, Rachel finally said. Clean, professional. Minimize drama. My hands had gone numb. I saved my work silently, powered down my computer, and left through the back door. They never knew I'd heard. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about every time I'd stayed late, every client I'd nurtured, every deal I'd saved. The Johnsons' financing falling through at the last minute. I'd found them a bridge loan. The Peterson estate sale that went sideways when the title revealed an easement issue. I'd negotiated with 3 separate attorneys to resolve it. I was the one who'd trained 16 of our current agents. I'd created our entire digital marketing system. I'd personally mentored new hires every single quarter. And they were planning to take my biggest client at the closing table. The next morning, I did something I'd never done before. I started documenting everything. I forwarded key emails to my personal account. I backed up every file, every client contact, every marketing material I'd created. I took screenshots of my sales records, my client testimonials, my commission statements. If they wanted to betray me, I was going to be ready. Over the next few weeks, I watched Kevin insert himself into the Chin transactions. He started attending showings, joining client calls. Marcus tolerated it professionally, but I could see the confusion in his eyes. Is Kevin also representing me? Marcus asked after one particularly awkward showing where Kevin had contradicted my staging advice. He's a senior advisor on the transaction, I said, using Rachel's language. It tasted like ash in my mouth. Then came the emergency with the Chin sale. The waterfront property inspection revealed foundation issues that the previous inspector had missed. Marcus was ready to walk away from the entire deal, all 3 properties. It was 9 p.m. on a Thursday. Rachel and Kevin had left for a charity gala. I called in a structural engineer I'd worked with before, got him to the property at 10 p.m., and had a repair estimate and remediation plan by midnight. I negotiated a $75,000 price reduction and a contractor agreement to complete repairs before closing. I saved the deal. Alone. While they were drinking champagne with donors. Marcus sent me a text at 1:14 a.m. You're incredible. Thank God you're on my team. I forwarded it to my personal email. Added it to the growing file labeled documentation. 3 days before closing, I found the email. It wasn't even sent to me intentionally. Kevin had accidentally included me in a reply all chain. Subject, Chin transaction, transition protocol. Rachel, confirming we're doing the switch at signing as discussed. I've already prepared the amended representation agreements. Legal says as long as we're within the same brokerage entity, client consent isn't technically required, though it's better practice. We'll position it as standard protocol for high-value transactions. Jordan's done the heavy lifting. Now I'll close with authority. Okay. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped my phone. That's when I knew. This wasn't about supporting me. This was a planned ambush. I called the one person I thought might care, our mother. Mom, I need to tell you something about Rachel. Oh, honey, I'm actually at lunch with Rachel right now. Can this wait? I heard Rachel's voice in the background. Is that Jordan? Tell her I'll call her back. They were having lunch. Together. Without me. Never mind, I said. It's nothing. I hung up and sat in my car in the parking lot of a Starbucks, crying so hard I couldn't catch my breath. That night, I made a list of every agent in the office who had ever told me I was underpaid, underappreciated, or deserved better. Agents who'd asked me for advice, whom I'd helped through difficult deals, who'd privately complained about Rachel's management style. There were 23 names on that list. I created a private Signal group chat and sent a simple message. Something's happening at Chin closing Friday. Whatever you see, don't react. Wait for my signal. Trust me. Within 20 minutes, all 23 had responded with some version of I'm with you. By Friday morning, the number had grown to 28. Now we returned to that conference room. The leather chairs. The mahogany table. The smell of expensive coffee turning bitter. Jordan, you have 60 seconds to gather your materials and exit the conference room. I met Marcus's eyes. He looked stunned, angry, and confused all at once. Kevin was already sliding into my chair, reaching for my carefully organized files. I pulled them back smoothly. These are my personal work product, I said quietly. You'll need to create your own. Jordan. Rachel's voice had that warning tone. The same one she'd used when we were kids and I wouldn't share my toys. I stood up, gathered my folders, my iPad, my lucky pen. Marcus was looking at Rachel like she'd grown a second head. 60 seconds is up, Rachel said. I walked to the door. Turned back. Looked directly at Marcus. Mr. Chin, it has been an absolute honor to represent you. I'm sorry this transaction is ending this way. You have my personal number if you need anything. I walked out. The office was full. Friday afternoon, right before weekend showings. All 28 agents from my Signal group were at their desks, pretending to work but obviously listening. I walked past them, out the front door, and sat in my car. Then I waited. My phone started buzzing within 90 seconds. First text from Marcus. What the hell just happened? I didn't agree to change agents. Second text from Sarah Mitchell, one of our top agents. We saw. We're out. All of us. Third text from Antonio Reyes. Just submitted my withdrawal notice. Where are we going? Then my phone rang. Unknown number. Jordan Torres? A woman's voice, professional and crisp. Yes. My name is Jennifer Walsh. I'm an attorney specializing in real estate partnership disputes. Dr. Patricia Huang gave me your number. She's a client of mine. She told me what happened today and suggested I call. I felt tears building. I appreciate that, but I can't afford. Dr. Huang is covering the initial consultation. And after that, I suspect we'll be working on contingency. Can you tell me about your ownership agreement with North Shore Realty? I don't have one. It was supposed to be formalized later. Do you have any documentation of promises made? Emails, texts, witnesses to conversations? Yes. A lot. Good. Do you have copies of your sales records, client lists, and marketing materials you created? Backed up to 3 separate locations. Excellent. Jordan, I'm going to ask you a few questions, and I need honest answers. Did you sign a non-compete? My heart started racing. No. Rachel kept saying we'd do all the paperwork, eventually. She never wanted to deal with lawyers. I heard Jennifer's sharp intake of breath. That's a significant oversight on her part. What about non-solicitation? Same thing. Nothing in writing. Jordan, I need you to listen carefully. You've been operating in what's called a quantum merit situation, providing services with the expectation of compensation. Without written contracts or non-compete agreements, you have substantial freedom of movement. And based on what Dr. Huang told me about your commission splits and lack of ownership despite promises, you may have claims for unpaid compensation and partnership interest. Back in the office, things were falling apart. My phone buzzed again. A message from Emma Chin, Marcus's daughter, who'd been connecting with him remotely during the signing. Dad just walked out. Said the deal is off until he understands what's happening. Kevin is melting down. Then another text, this one from Kayla Washington, the office administrator. Jordan, I just watched 28 agents submit withdrawal notices. Like, literally, one after another. They're physically lining up at Rachel's door. She's freaking out. Kevin is yelling. This is insane. I called Dr. Huang. Patricia, I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. I called Jennifer Walsh because you need protection, and I called Marcus because he deserves to know what kind of people he's dealing with. Jordan, you saved my mother during her estate sale when every other agent told us the property was unsellable. You spent 3 months staging that house, coordinating repairs, and finding the perfect buyer. You refused to give up. That's not something I forget. Thank you, I whispered. No. Thank you. Now go build something better. Over the next 6 hours, my phone never stopped buzzing. Marcus Chin officially terminated his listing agreements with North Shore Realty, all 3 properties. The cancellation clause allowed it due to material change in representation without consent. 28 agents submitted official withdrawal notices, citing constructive termination of a supportive work environment and breach of trust by ownership. 6 administrative staff members, including Kayla, gave 2 weeks' notice. Rachel called me 17 times. I didn't answer. Kevin sent me a threatening text. You just destroyed your sister's business. I hope you're proud. I was sitting in my apartment, the modest 2-bedroom I could barely afford on 60/40th splits, while Rachel and Kevin lived in their $1 million Tudor, when my phone rang again. Mom. I almost didn't answer. Jordan Marie Torres, what did you do? Hi, Mom. Rachel is devastated. She's telling me you staged some kind of mutiny, that you turned everyone against her, that you stole her client. I felt surprisingly calm. Mom, did Rachel tell you she planned to fire me at Marcus Chen's closing table? In front of the client? After I'd worked on his portfolio for 6 weeks. Silence. Did she tell you she and Kevin had planned this for weeks? That I overheard them discussing it? That she chose her husband's career advancement over her sister's years of loyalty? More silence. Did she tell you that she's paid me 60/40th splits for 7 years while promising ownership she never intended to give me? That I've generated $64 million in sales while being treated as expendable. Jordan, there are two sides to every. No, Mom. There aren't. There's what happened, and there's Rachel's justification for what happened. I'm done being the understanding one. I'm done being the one who sacrifices. I hung up. 10 minutes later, Dad called. Your mother told me what happened. What she said to you. Dad, I can't. I believe you. I started crying. Jordan, I gave you that pen because I knew you'd be great at this. Not because you're my daughter, but because you care about people. Rachel. Rachel cares about appearances. I love her, but I'm not blind. He paused. What do you need? Space. Time. And maybe some help finding office space for about 30 people. I'll make some calls. That night, 28 of us met in the party room of my apartment complex. We sat on folding chairs and the floor, eating pizza and planning a revolution. Sarah Mitchell, who'd been with North Shore for 4 years, spoke first. I'm all in, but we need to be smart. We need a brokerage entity, E&O insurance, office space, and operating capital. That's not nothing. Antonio Reyes nodded. I've got $15,000 I can invest. My wife says if I'm going to do this, do it right. One by one, agents pledged capital. By the end of the night, we had $180,000 in commitment. We need a name, someone said. I looked around the room. Cornerstone Collective. Because we're building from the ground up together. Everyone nodded. Marcus Chin texted me at 11:47 p.m. Dr. Huang told me you're starting something new. I want to list all 3 properties with you. Exclusively. And I'm telling everyone I know. The next 2 weeks were chaos. We filed incorporation papers for Cornerstone Collective Real Estate. We structured it as a cooperative, with every agent holding equity shares based on their investment and production. Real ownership. Legal and binding. Jennifer Walsh worked miracles. She negotiated my exit from North Shore with zero liability, citing the lack of written non-compete and North Shore's violation of good faith dealing. Rachel tried to claim I'd breached fiduciary duty. Jennifer laughed and sent her a letter detailing all the ways Rachel had violated her fiduciary duties to me. The letter was 13 pages long. Dad found us temporary office space in a renovated warehouse downtown. It was rough, exposed brick, concrete floors, definitely not luxury, but it was ours. We moved in with folding tables and our personal laptops. Sarah Mitchell designed our logo. Antonio Reyes built our website. Kayla Washington, who'd left North Shore, set up our entire operational infrastructure. We opened for business on November 1st, exactly 2 weeks after the conference room betrayal. Our first day, we had 12 new client inquiries. By day 3, we'd signed 6 new listings. By the end of week 1, Marcus Chen's waterfront property went under contract for $3.4 million, $200,000 over asking. The buyer heard about the property through word of mouth from one of Dr. Huang's colleagues. Meanwhile, North Shore Realty was hemorrhaging. Kayla, who still had friends in the office, sent me updates. Rachel had tried to replace 28 agents by offering 80/20 splits to new recruits. But experienced agents wanted nothing to do with a brokerage known for mistreating its top producer. The new hires were mostly inexperienced, and they struggled without the mentorship infrastructure I'd built. Kevin tried to position himself as the new lead agent, but clients complained constantly. He didn't know the properties, didn't understand the market nuances, and had none of the relationships. 3 major listings canceled within 2 weeks due to poor service. The brokerage's reputation on Zillow and Realtor.com tanked as frustrated clients left reviews. Rachel called me on November 8th. I didn't answer, but she left a voicemail. Jordan, please. We need to talk. This has gotten out of hand. I never meant. Look, maybe we can work something out. You can come back. Better splits. We'll formalize the ownership agreement. Please call me. I deleted it. Kevin sent an email on November 12th, trying a different tactic. Subject: Professional courtesy request. Jordan, Rachel is struggling with what happened. As her husband, I'm asking you to consider the family impact of your decisions. Yes, there was a misunderstanding at the closing, but your mass exodus strategy was vindictive and disproportionate. Can we meet to discuss a path forward that doesn't involve destroying your sister's livelihood? Kevin. Jennifer Walsh drafted my response. Subject: Professional courtesy request. Kevin, there was no misunderstanding. There was a planned ambush that I accidentally discovered beforehand. Your email to Rachel regarding transition protocol was quite clear. As for family impact, I suggest you consider how your wife's decision to publicly humiliate her sister at a closing table might have impacted our family. No meeting is necessary. All future communications should go through my attorney. Jordan Torres, Principal Broker, Cornerstone Collective Real Estate. I added Principal Broker to my signature that day. It felt powerful. By December, Cornerstone had grown to 34 agents. We'd closed $12 million in transactions, with another $18 million in pending contracts. My personal commission income for November alone exceeded what I'd made in the previous 6 months at North Shore. We held our first company-wide meeting in our warehouse office, which we'd slowly improved with real furniture and proper lighting. Still humble, but functional and full of energy. I want to thank everyone here, I said, standing in front of our team. 6 weeks ago, we were sitting on folding chairs eating pizza. Today, we're a legitimate brokerage with real momentum. And it's because every single person in this room chose integrity over convenience. Sarah Mitchell raised her hand. Jordan, I've got news. The Metro Business Journal wants to do a feature on us. The cooperative brokerage disrupting traditional real estate. They want interviews, photos, the whole thing. Antonio grinned. Are we going to mention the dramatic origin story? We're going to focus on our model, I said. The cooperative structure, the equity sharing, the mentorship culture. But yes, if they ask how we started, I'll be honest. The article ran on December 18th, front page of the business section. The headline, Cornerstone Collective, How 28 Agents Built a Better Brokerage in 8 Weeks. The article detailed our cooperative structure, highlighted our sales numbers, and included a sidebar about the disputed circumstances of our formation. It quoted me extensively about ethical leadership and the importance of honoring the people who do the work. It quoted Rachel too. She'd clearly tried to control the narrative. Jordan chose to leave our organization due to philosophical differences about business growth. We wish her well. But the article's author had done their homework. They'd interviewed several of our agents, who spoke candidly about the hostile work environment, the inequitable commission splits, and the public humiliation I'd experienced. The article concluded, whether intentional or not, North Shore Realty's treatment of Jordan Torres catalyzed the creation of what may be a new model for real estate brokerages, one where producers are partners, not just profit centers. My phone exploded with messages. Industry colleagues, potential recruits, clients wanting to work with us. And then, surprisingly, a text from Mom. I read the article. I'm proud of you. I'm sorry I didn't listen. Can we talk? We met for coffee 3 days before Christmas. She hugged me for a long time before we sat down. I've been thinking a lot about that phone call, she said. The one where I didn't listen. Where I assumed Rachel was right because she's older, because she's the business owner, because she's always been the confident one. Mom, let me finish. I've watched you your whole life be the accommodating one. The peacekeeper. The one who makes room for Rachel's ego. And I encouraged it because it was easier for me. Less drama. Less conflict. She reached across the table and took my hand. But accommodation isn't the same as respect. And you deserved respect. You deserve to be heard. I'm sorry. I was crying into my coffee. Rachel came by yesterday, Mom continued. She's struggling, Jordan. The brokerage is in real trouble. She's had to take out a loan to cover operating costs. Kevin's talking about moving into business consulting because the real estate thing isn't working out. She asked me to intercede with you. What did you tell her? I told her that some mistakes can't be fixed with a conversation. That she chose public humiliation as a strategy, and now she's experiencing the consequences. I told her I love her, but I'm not going to pressure you to save her from herself. How did she react? Mom smiled sadly. About how you'd expect. Said I was taking sides, that I never understood her position, that this was all harder for her than anyone realized. Some things never change. But some things do. You change them. And I'm proud of that. On January 15th, 2025, exactly 3 months after the conference room betrayal, North Shore Realty announced it was ceasing operations. The press release was vague. Due to changing market conditions and strategic restructuring, North Shore Realty will be closing its doors effective January 31st. All current listings will be transferred to partner brokerages. We thank our clients and community for 7 years of support. Kayla sent me the internal email that went to remaining staff. Team, it is with deep regret that Rachel and I must announce the closure of North Shore Realty. Despite our best efforts to maintain operations after the departure of several key personnel, we have been unable to sustain the business model. All staff will receive their final paychecks on January 31st. We are grateful for your dedication and wish you success in your future endeavors. Rachel Harrison and Kevin Harrison. The final staff numbered 9 people, down from 42. Jennifer Walsh called me that afternoon. I've been going over North Shore's filing history. Did you know Rachel's been operating on a margin loan against her house for the past 2 months? I didn't. It's public record. She borrowed $340,000 using the tutor as collateral. That's how she's been covering payroll and operating expenses. I felt a complicated mix of emotions. Satisfaction, sadness, vindication, guilt. There's more, Jennifer said. I've been approached by 3 former North Shore agents who aren't part of Cornerstone. They're asking if you'd consider a merger. They want to join your cooperative. We're not even 6 months old. And you're already the 3rd largest independent brokerage in the metro area. Jordan, you've built something extraordinary. Don't underestimate what you've created. That week, we absorbed 7 more agents. Our team reached 41 people, nearly the same size North Shore had been at its peak. But the structure was completely different. Every agent had equity. Every voice mattered. Every contribution was valued. We moved into a proper office in February, a 3-story building in a mixed-use development downtown. Still not luxury, but professional. Bright. Full of possibility. The first thing we hung in the lobby was a framed copy of that Business Journal article. In March, I got a LinkedIn message from someone unexpected, Marcus Chen. Jordan, I'm serving on the board of the Metro Real Estate Association. We're looking for someone to chair the Professional Ethics Committee. I'd like to nominate you. Interested? I accepted. At the April Metro Real Estate Association meeting, I stood at a podium in front of 300 industry professionals and talked about ethical leadership, the importance of supporting producers, and building cultures of genuine partnership. Rachel was in the audience. I saw her in the back row, sitting alone. She left before Q&A. That same week, I ran into Kevin at a Starbucks. He was wearing khakis and a polo with a consulting firm logo. He looked tired. Jordan, he said. Hey, Kevin. Awkward silence. I'm doing business consulting now, helping companies optimize their operations. He said it like he was trying to convince himself. Good for you. Look, about what happened. It's been 6 months, Kevin. We don't need to do this. Rachel really struggled, you know. The business closing. The financial strain. Her reputation in the industry. I looked at him carefully. Kevin, you and Rachel made a choice. You chose short-term ego gratification over long-term ethical practice. You chose to publicly humiliate someone who'd been loyal for 7 years. Those choices had consequences. We were trying to position the business for growth. No, you were trying to position yourself as important. There's a difference. I left him standing there with his overpriced latte and his consulting firm polo. In May, Cornerstone Collective closed $43 million in transactions. We were officially in the top 10 brokerages in our market. I increased my personal salary to $180,000 annually, plus commission. My 28 original agents were all making more than they had at North Shore. We'd hired a full-time training director, a marketing coordinator, and 3 administrative staff. We offered health insurance, retirement matching, actual benefits, and every agent owned a piece of the company. On June 15th, exactly 8 months after that conference room betrayal, I was having dinner with Dad when he asked, Do you ever wonder what would have happened if Rachel hadn't tried to fire you that day? Sometimes. What do you think? I think I'd still be there. Still working 60-hour weeks for 60/40th splits. Still being undervalued. Still waiting for the ownership stake that was never coming. Still being the invisible engine while Rachel and Kevin took credit. You sound grateful. I thought about that. About the warehouse office with the folding tables. About 28 agents who'd risked their careers to stand with me. About Marcus Chin pushing those documents back across the table. About building something that mattered with people who shared real values. I am grateful, I said. Not for the betrayal, but for the clarity. Clarity. Rachel showed me exactly who she was. She gave me permission to stop accommodating, stop sacrificing, stop waiting for respect that was never coming. She freed me. Dad smiled. To freedom, then. We clinked glasses. The last time I saw Rachel was at a mutual friend's wedding in July. We were both invited, awkwardly, unavoidably. I wore a deep emerald dress. She wore black. We ended up near each other at the bar. Jordan, she said quietly. Rachel. Congratulations on Cornerstone. I hear you're doing well. We are. Thank you. Long pause. The bartender pretended to be very busy with garnishes. I wanted to apologize, Rachel said. For how things ended. It wasn't right. The way we handled it. I looked at her. Really looked. She'd lost weight. Had new lines around her eyes. Looked smaller somehow. Rachel, I appreciate that. But I'm not interested in revisiting it. We both moved on. That's enough. I just want you to understand that I was under a lot of pressure. Kevin really pushed for. Stop. I said it gently but firmly. You made choices. They were your choices. Own them or don't, but don't make them about Kevin or pressure or circumstances. You fired me at a closing table in front of my client. You planned it. You executed it. And I built something better in response. I picked up my drink. I hope you find what you're looking for, Rachel. But it won't be absolution for me. I walked away. It felt good. Today, Cornerstone Collective has 63 agents and projects $140 million in annual sales volume. I own 23% of the company, real ownership, legally documented, and serve as principal broker. We've been profitable every quarter since inception. We've won 3 industry awards. We're launching a mentorship program for new agents. We're expanding into commercial real estate. Last week, Sarah Mitchell told me she just bought her first house, a 3-bedroom Craftsman that she'd admired for years. I couldn't afford it before, she said. But the equity distribution from Cornerstone made it possible. That's what success looks like to me. I heard through the industry grapevine that Rachel is working for a large commercial firm now. Not as an owner. As an agent. Back to basics. Kevin's consulting business never gained traction, and he's apparently exploring corporate HR positions. They had to sell the tutor. Moved into a rental townhome to manage the debt from North Shore's collapse. I don't feel satisfaction hearing that. I feel neutral. Their story is their story. My story is here, in this bright office downtown, surrounded by people who chose integrity, who bet on themselves, who built something meaningful together. The funny thing about Betrayal is that it reveals. Rachel thought she was removing an obstacle at that closing table. She thought she was establishing Kevin's credibility, positioning the business for growth, making a strategic move. Instead, she revealed her own instability, her poor judgment, her inability to value the people who actually created value. That 60 seconds in the conference room, the moment she gave me to leave, became the foundation for everything that came after. She meant it as an ending, as a humiliation, as a dismissal. But endings and beginnings are often the same moment, viewed from different angles. I walked out of that conference room carrying my files, my pen, and my dignity. And I walked into the rest of my life. The 60 seconds that were supposed to erase me became the 60 seconds that defined me. Not as someone who could be dismissed, but as someone who could build, who could lead, who could create something better from the ashes of someone else's cruelty. Rachel wanted to make me invisible. Instead, she gave me the push I needed to become undeniable. And for that, though I'd never tell her this, I am genuinely, deeply grateful. Thanks for watching this story. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button. Think of it as your own closing table power move. What was your favorite moment? Mine was when those 28 agents started lining up with withdrawal notices. Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories about justice, redemption, and what happens when people finally stand up for themselves. See you.